expecting that at all.
That was actually wild. That kid cut me to my core.
This is SportsCenter.
Hey, I'm Marissa Roberto, and so, Leaf fans, last night was a tough one, wasn't it? After stealing home ice away from Boston in Game 2, Toronto dropped Game 3 at home in kinda heartbreaking fashion. Brad Marchand scored the winning goal, and all the talk post-game was about how he influences the game and the refs.
He gets calls. It's unbelievable, actually. You know how it goes. You know, but we got to play through that. You got to play through that stuff. I don't think there's another player in this series that gets away with taking out Bertuzzi's legs the way that he does. There's not one other player in the series that gets away with that, but he does. Because, you know, it's an art, and he's elite at it.
Are we not sick of this? Are we not sick of these press conferences? I don't want to hear the same thing over and over again. Marchand is actually elite at putting up points against the Leafs in the playoffs. Game 3 was his 24th game against Toronto in the postseason, and he's got 27 points in those games. But while we're talking about Leaf killers, we might as well bring up Jake DeBrusk, who also scored, and it was his 9th goal in 17 career playoff games against Toronto. So the big question is, where do the Leafs go from here, and what went wrong? With 2 days off, the hope is that William Nylander will be back for Game 4, which would provide a great offensive boost. And Keith talked about the status of Nylander earlier today.
How will the 2-day break in the series impact Nylander and kind of his recovery?
Well, obviously it would benefit. You know, the more time, the better. As I said last night, it's going to benefit those who aren't playing and benefit those who are playing, and both on our team and on the other side. So it's good as we move into the back half of the series, and a chance to take a breath here today and get some needed recovery, and you'll ramp it back up tomorrow.
Through 3 games, only 2 Leafs have 3 or more points, and no one has scored more than 1 goal. Nylander would also provide a much-needed power play boost, because the Buds are faltering in that department at 9.1%, which is 3rd last among all playoff teams. On the plus side, this has all the feels of another 7-game classic, though, which is obviously what's represented on this horrible Leafs and Bruins jersey. I've had enough. To the NFL, it's finally here. It is draft day. And what a magical night we've got ahead of us. Because whenever there's 3 quarterbacks going this early, and potentially 4 in the top 5, you know we're gonna get fireworks. And those fireworks likely start at pick 2, because that's where the uncertainty is. We know Caleb Williams is a lock to go 1 to Chicago. The odds tell us just that, as he's minus 30,000. I need the TikTok sound in here. 30,000?
30,000?
Meaning if you bet $100 for the Bears to take Caleb Williams, and it hits, you will win a whopping 33 cents. Now 2 is where everything gets interesting with Washington. Whether the pick is Jaden Daniels, Drake May, or Michigan's JJ McCarthy. At the moment, Daniels is the heavy favorite, but we've seen these markets move like crazy in the past, even on draft day. Think about the Mac Jones and Trey Lance drama from a few years back, or in the NBA last year on draft day, as Scoot and Brendan Miller seem to flip-flop all day. These things move quick, so JJ McCarthy at that number might be worth a sprinkle. Outside of the 4 quarterbacks we just mentioned, there's potential for 2 more to go in the first round, as both Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. might both be selected in round 1. Let's lean on our friends at FanDuel again here, as they have pretty heavy juice that the lefty Penix will go in the first round, while the Knicks number appears to be right on the line. You can watch the NFL Draft tonight on TSN. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. And be sure to check in on TSN's YouTube page all night, as the Bardon Football Group will be doing instant reactions to all the big picks. Okay, so as we told you last segment, it's very likely that we see quarterbacks taken with the first 3 picks tonight. Now in the common draft era, that's happened 3 times. In 1971, all 3 of the guys taken had good careers, but not great, with Jim Plunkett probably being the most successful, as he won and was MVP of the Super Bowl with the Raiders. In 99, we had 2 massive busts with Tim Couch and Akili Smith, with Donovan McNabb having a great career with the Eagles. And once again in 2021, 2 massive busts, and probably an incomplete grade when it comes to Trevor Lawrence. So why is it so hard picking a QB in the top 5? Here's Eric Kirk with the question is.
You're not going to find the next legendary quarterback in the top 5 of the NFL draft. Finding a franchise quarterback is almost impossible. Even the GOAT was passed on 198 times. Without counting last year's draft, we've seen 24 quarterbacks drafted top 5 in the last 20 years. So we developed a formula to grade QBs, and half of our candidates were definite busts. To be graded among the elite, you need to have either won a Super Bowl or won an MVP. Is it difficult to break that mark? Yeah, but when you draft a quarterback top 5, you're expecting him to be your franchise player. Clearly, playoff success is a major factor, as it boosted Mark Sanchez and dropped Alex Smith down to a bust. And if we look at the current Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes went 10th, Josh Allen went 7th, Lamar Jackson was the last pick of the first round, and the only player who was drafted top 5, Joe Burrow, who was the first overall pick in 2020. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May are all projected to be top 5 picks, and the odds are heavily stacked against them. Just look at the last time 3 QBs went in top 5. 2 of them have already been dealt. So the question is, are one of these 3 a franchise quarterback?
And just a reminder, you can watch the NFL Draft tonight on TSN. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific.
I'm playing football, then soccer.
Time now for my favorite segment and yours, Why We Love Sports Today.
Why we love sports today.
It's the collab you didn't know you needed. Bayern Munich's Alphonso Davies and NFL MVP Lamar Jackson.
God, my shoulder's too big. I like that one. Oh, here we go. I'm playing football, then soccer. I gotta get a picture of that.
I love when elite athletes get together and show off their respective sports. I'm really interested. I love this stuff. It's football and then football. Now joined by future NFL draft pick, lineman from Ajax, Ontario, Isaiah Adams. Thanks for joining us.
Man, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You grew up in Canada where hockey is a sport of choice for many. When you were younger, you quit football after one day to pursue hockey. So let's talk hockey. First, what position did you play and who were some of your favorite players?
So I kind of started I'm in the 3rd grade. My older brother was huge on it, but like road hockey, you know, kind of growing up in Canada is like the thing to do when you get home from school. So started in the 3rd grade with like house league, and then after a couple years of house league, I ended up playing A like level of hockey, and I played that for about 3-4 years. And this was before like, you know, kind of hockey teams wanted big players. So I was always the standout. I was a defenseman. But, you know, my older brother was like, man, if you just kept playing, like they would have liked your size eventually. But at that age, it was more like a finesse game, speed. Spent a lot of time in the penalty box just for head check guys because kids were up to my shoulder. But I loved it. I loved watching like PK Subban was, you know, a guy I looked up to. Definitely, I was a defenseman, so he was like one of the top D-men at the time. But like, you know, forwards like Crosby and Patrick Kane were like huge at that time. So, you know, I kind of had a little finesse to my game too. So I remember watching Patrick Kane highlights and all that stuff. And yeah, I stopped playing that in the 8th grade, but you know, hockey was like my first love, first kind of real team sport that I really got into. And you know, definitely still like it now. Playoff hockey, there's kind of nothing like that.
Completely agree. Also love a big defenseman taking pims out there. So much fun. Let's stick with hockey, sort of. Is there a hockey comp that works for your style on the football field?
Oh man, I don't know. There was a guy like Dion Phaneuf, on Calgary, and like his first year with the Leafs, man, he was physical, like, you know, but he was reliable and guy you could count on, a leader. But man, I remember he was like a tough kind of strong player. So if I'd say if that was like my hockey comp, I'd say Dion Phaneuf for sure.
That's an excellent choice. Isaiah Adams, thank you so much for joining us and good luck at the draft.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be, you know, talking to you for sure.
Just a reminder, you can watch the NFL Draft tonight on TSN. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. That's all for today. We'll see you back tomorrow at 3 Eastern. No Pacific. Have a good one.